Okay, so 11-2, bivariate data with relative frequencies. So we're going to take yesterday's assignment, what we were doing yesterday, and we're just going to change it over to frequencies, we're going to use percentage-based frequencies. So the relative frequency is how often something happens or occurs divided by the outcomes. So we have this table that we worked in yesterday. So this is a two-way frequency table from yesterday. And now we're going to write the relative frequency. So the total number of outcomes there are 450. And you can see some of them have been filled in. We're going to write them as percentages. We're going to take these ones and change them to a percent. So move it 2 decimal places. This would be 10.9%, 29.1%. This would be 6%, 26.2%. 50.7%. And we're going to calculate all of ours as percentages. So to find the relative frequency, we're going to put the total number of males to fly, which is 51, over 450, because that's the total number of people. And that's going to give us an approximate percentage of 11.3%. And then if we do the total, that would be there was a total of 100 out of 450, which is approximately 22.2%. And then for freeze time, we have 60 out of 450. If we divide that, we get 0.133 or 13.3%. So remember, we're going to be getting a decimal value when you divide them, but then you're going to change it to by moving the decimal 2 places. And then this one is 71 out of 450. Which is 15.8%. And then visibility is 48 out of 450, which is 10.7%. And then the total here is 75 out of 450, which is 16.7%. And then super strength is 1 out of 450, which is 0.2%. And 25 out of 450, which is 5.6%. And so then 26 out of 450 is 5.8%. And telepathy, we have 70 out of 450, which is 15.6%. And then we have 48 out of 450, which is approximately 10.7%. And then this is 222 out of 450, which is 49.3%, and 450 out of 450, which is equal to 100%. So that's how we do relative frequency. So this is a frequency table. This is a relative frequency. So related to the total or the full. So you put the number over the total. So it says calculate the remaining relative frequencies, write the values as a percent is what we did. So that part's done. Based on the previous work with frequency tables, which cells in the table would represent the joint relative frequencies? So the joint ones are the ones on the interior or the non-shaded. Okay, and it says which cells are the marginal. So the marginals are the ones on the outside, so those are the shaded. What is a joint relative frequency for females who selected invisibility? So we want female invisibility, and we see it's 10.7%. And then we have on the number 5, what is the marginal relative frequency for freeze time? So marginal relative frequency is on the side, freeze time. So we're talking about the total here, 29.1%. And it says interpret the meaning. So 29.1% of those surveyed chose freeze time as their favorite. Okay. And then what is the difference in the joint relative frequencies for males and for females who selected to fly? So to fly for males is 11.3% and females is 10.9%. So we have 11.3% minus 10.9%, which is 0.4%. Because it said the difference. Right? Is there a noticeable difference between the genders in their favorite superpowers? So in general, I would say yes. In general, there is a difference. Now, if you look at certain cases, like here, that's not much of a difference. But for other categories, there is a bigger difference. I just spelled different. I missed half my letters in difference. Sorry. Difference. There's a difference for most categories. So then it says, interest in superheroes continues at Rufus High School, or Rufus King High School. The students who analyzed the data in the previous lesson decided to create a comic strip for the school website that involves the superhero. They thought the summaries developed from the data would be helpful in designing the comic strip. Only one power will be given to the superhero. A debate arose as to what power the school's superhero would get. Students used a two-way frequency table and the relative frequency table to continue the discussion. Take another look at those tables. Scott initially indicated that the character created should have super strength as a special power. So let's go back to super strength. And if we're comparing males and females, you would say, oh yeah, super strength definitely wins out. But compared to the rest, those numbers are pretty low. This suggestion was not well received by the other students playing the project. In particular, Jill argued, well, if you don't want to ignore more than half of the readers, then I suggest telepathy is a better power for our character. Scott acknowledged that super strength is probably not the best choice based on the data. The data indicates that freeze time is the most popular power for a superhero, continued Scott. Jill, however, still did not agree with Scott that this was a good choice. She argued that telepathy was a better choice. How do the data support Scott's claim? So let's go to the data and look freeze time. We're talking about which one is most popular. And if we look at and compare the numbers, you can see that freeze time for the total is the most popular of the choices. So the data shows that for the total relative frequencies, freeze time had the highest percent. So the highest percentage of people of the population chose freeze time. How do the data support Jill's claim? Why do you think she selected telepathy? So now let's go back and look at telepathy. If we look at our numbers in the joint ones, 10, 11.3, 15.8, and you look at telepathy for females is the highest one. Okay. So she probably only looked at females. And telepathy was the highest. Of the two special powers, freeze time and telepathy, select one and justify you think it's a better choice. So should we go with the one that's for all individuals or the one that's just based on the females? So hopefully everybody agrees that we should pick freeze time because it represents all genders. It was the highest when including both genders. Alright, so now you're going to do the worksheet. So read it through the questions carefully, fill out the table carefully, and answer the questions that are similar to what we just saw here.